Hello everyone, Purge here, and welcome to my Monsters and Memories tutorial series for non-EverQuest players. In this installation, I wish to share a few tips and tricks that will help you be ahead of the curve in MNM. There are a lot of such videos online already for this game, so there might be some overlap, but probably not very much as I'm looking at things through a different lens. So, while this is nowhere near an exhaustive list of tips and tricks, reasonably we could make 50 of such tips and still not run out, I am wanting to provide some less talked about ideas that will be helpful. Specifically, I want to cover things that will be a bit more alien to those of us who didn't play EverQuest, so let's jump right in. Location and navigation. One of the first things you'll notice in MNM is that there is no minimap. In fact, as of this recording, there's no map in the game whatsoever. That may change in the future as the devs are mulling over crude player-made maps via a cartography skill, but as of this recording, this isn't a feature yet. Even if we do get player-made maps, there will be no GPS system. No, this is where you are marker whatsoever on any map in the game. This is by design. Due to this design decision, navigation in MNM is not a mindless process. It requires you to pay attention to where you are, keep an eye out for and track where landmarks are relative to your position, and make sure that if you get into a pinch, that you get an idea of where you are so that you can find your corpse after you die. There is no corpse marker. There is no arrow that points you to it. You, the player, need to remember where you died so you can retrieve your corpse. Now, having said that, there are methods to aid in corpse retrieval, but they require assistance from other players. Necromancers and bards at the minimum have the ability to find corpses, but even they will still just be able to give you a direction. You still have to find it yourself. Editor Purge here. That's not 100% accurate. At high levels, necromancers get the ability to summon a corpse, but it is extremely expensive. I think it was something like 10 gold for the reagent for it. Either way, it is imperative to pay attention to where you are and learn the environment around you. You do this by looking for landmarks and understanding where you are relative to them, as well as keeping an eye on the terrain to see where within the local terrain you are at. Let's use Night Harbor as a quick example. In Night Harbor, where I hope most of you will start at, since Phalandril is brutally difficult to navigate since you can barely see the sky, the sea is to the south. There is a river to the east. There are north and west gates out of the city. The north gate has a wonderful landmark, the giant pink at night wizard spire. It's visible from most of the city. To find your way west, however, look for the giant castle, which is lit up green at night, in the far distance up on some cliffs. That is Fallen Watch, which is a dungeon, I believe, in Fallen Pass, which is on the opposite side of Shaded Dunes, which is outside the west gate of the city. So going toward the giant castle is going to help you find your way west. Let's use Shaded Dunes as another example. In Shaded Dunes, you can see Night Harbor from just about anywhere. You'll see the giant dome of the palace, which at night is lit up. It's an easy landmark. In Shaded Dunes, that direction is east. The sea is once again to the south. The absolutely enormous mountain that's looming over the dunes is north. And the huge aforementioned glowy green castle, yeah, that's to the west still. In simpler terms, there's cliffs to the west and north, a city to the east, and ocean to your south. Lastly, I want to say that at night, this game gets oppressively dark. If you don't have infravision, which is a trait, you're not going to be seeing very much in front of you at all. In fact, without a light source, you can't see the names of enemies until they're very close to you, which can lead to a quick death. However, there is a saving grace: the skybox. The skybox at night, first of all, is worth looking at. It's beautiful. Easily the most beautiful I've ever seen in a game, but I digress. The Milky Way looking star cluster runs east to west approximately, so at night you'll be able to recognize that is east or west. And if you use /time, you'll see what time of night it is, and the position and movement of the moons will help you to figure out the rest of the directions from there. Using these tricks will help you not be lost all the time, and ensure you can find your corpse if you get snuck up on by a desert madman. Looting, bags, and weight. Now, I want to talk about looting, bags, and weight. This is very important, so please listen up. The MNM inventory uses a slot system that WoW players will be familiar with, but it goes much farther than that. There is also item sizes and weight to consider as well. An item will always take up one slot, whatever the size, weight, or stackability of that item. However, not every item can go into every bag due to size limitations. As an example, a battle axe is a large item, meaning it can only fit in your main inventory and backpacks. But a pair of pants is considered a medium item and can fit in those, plus the bag slot bags, such as satchels, and many, though not all, of the trade skill containers, such as a tailoring kit. But it cannot fit in a pouch. Rings, however, are small items and will indeed fit in a pouch just fine. This means that inventory management is an integral part of your exploration and grinding sessions. Whenever you loot an item, you have to keep track of how many slots you have available, which is increased via bags, how much weight you have left, which scales with the strength stat, and the size of the item itself to determine which bag it can fit in. If you don't keep track of these things, you'll be confused when you try to pick up a weapon and it says you can't do so when you have 11 open slots in your pouch, but your main inventory is full of teeth and ears. If you just take a moment to move the teeth and ears into a pouch, you'll have room to loot the weapon. This is all fine and dandy, until you're carrying too much. Weight, of course, means you can be overweight or encumbered. Encumbrance by a couple of units isn't a big deal, you just run a little slower than normal. But eventually, if you go well over, you'll move at a crawl. And finally, eventually, you won't be able to move at all. So always keep an eye on all of that. Try and fill your pouches up with as many small items as you can fit. They're usually not very heavy, and most importantly, you don't want them taking up precious backpack slots. Unfortunately, as of this recording, the way items will be looted goes like this. Main inventory first, then backpacks, then bag slots, such as satchels, and finally belt slot pouches. What this means is that your tiny items like teeth will fill up valuable large item slots unless you manually move them into your pouches. I and others have petitioned the devs to reverse this order, but it hasn't happened yet and may never happen. Time will tell. Unless and until that happens, we have to manually manage our inventory, moving small items to pouches and medium items to satchels to make room for big honking hammers and axes and the like. It's kind of annoying, but it's part of the game. Might as well get used to it. It's great to do this while meditating, or medding, to get your mana back if you're a mana using class. Make use of that downtime. Interacting with NPCs and the world. Ah, NPCs. Those lovely little guys that annoy us, help us, make us laugh, and frustrate the ever-living hell out of us at times. Without NPCs, would a game truly be a game? Probably not. But what if I told you that you have to talk to NPCs like you talk to a real person you met at the grocery store or the bank? Would you still consider it a game? Perhaps that's a tad too philosophical for the scope of this video, but let me tell you this. If you've never played a MUD before, interacting with NPCs in this game is going to be more foreign than the surface of Mars to you. This is the area where I struggled the absolute most, and to be honest, still struggle a lot of times. Interacting with NPCs sometimes feels like pulling your hair out, setting your head on fire, then trying to put it out, but all at the same time. It can be extremely frustrating at times, but it also adds a level of immersion that is completely lacking from most other games. You're not just clicking next or choosing from a radial wheel of 3 options. You, the player, need to progress the conversation, steering the NPC in the direction to give you the information you're wanting or needing. It's unnatural, or at least it was for an introvert like me. I don't think this way. I don't steer conversations usually because I don't have a lot of conversations with people typically, except in Discord anyway. Shout out to join my Discord, wink wink, nudge nudge, but that's Discord, not my video game. So no matter what, it just feels kind of odd. Regardless, if you want to do your basic starter quest for some classes or do any other quests whatsoever, you need to be able to figure out what an NPC wants you to say to progress the conversation. Sometimes it's as simple as asking if they have any work for you. Sometimes it's as simple as asking for a cure. Other times it's convoluted, and there's hints that other NPCs will give that will lead you to an answer in a conversation with someone else. It's a lot, and I am by no means an expert on this. However, there's a trick that'll work a lot of the time, if not always. If you cannot figure out how to get the conversation to progress, try retyping everything they've said to you, sentence by sentence. Sometimes within those sentences, you'll find the magic keyword to progress. It doesn't always work, but has worked multiple times for me when I got stuck, so it's definitely worth a try. Anyway, the other super important thing you need to keep in mind when talking to NPCs is that in order to turn items into NPCs, you need to drag them out of your inventory onto your mouse cursor and drop it on the NPC to trade the item to them. Once you do this a few times, it won't feel so strange. Why don't more games have this kind of system? Honestly, this one felt very natural to me once I did it a few times and got used to it. The combination of hailing, with H by default, an NPC, asking them various questions, rooting through the information to find the keyword, and getting the response is a minigame in and of itself. Some of you will love it, and others will be in the annoyed camp alongside me. I have found some little or unknown keywords in the past, but I wouldn't call it an enjoyable experience. But that's my personal opinion. To each their own. Some people have told me that they love this system, and I'm happy for those people. Look, just try to get used to interacting with the NPCs. You're not going to get very far if you can't start or turn in a basic quest. For everything else, you can ask others or check the wiki. And if you can't get an answer, can't figure it out, just come back later. Similarly, for interacting with the world, we have MUD commands. There is a list of MUD commands on the website in the new player guide, as well as available in-game on the interactions window, as well as the command window, both of which are enabled by default on your UI. Some are fairly straightforward, but others will be more complex and confusing, but there will be a message that pops up when you try to use the command that will help you figure out how to use it. Some MUD commands will require you to hold a specific item in your hand, that is to say mouse cursor, to use them. It's another confusing thing, but it makes sense when you think about it. How are you going to throw a grappling hook if it isn't in your hand? It's an extra step that, in my opinion, increases the immersion of the game. Solo versus grouping. Alright, let's get to some combat tips. What's better, solo play or grouping? Well, this is a complicated question, and it depends on many factors. However, in very broad strokes, it goes like this. Soloing enemies after about level 4 or so takes a long time. Your time to kill, or TTK, will feel excessively long. This is by design. The game is intended to be played in groups of 2 to 6 players. However, if you solo enemies, you get everything. All the XP, all the drops, and most importantly, all the coin. You know, if they drop it. If you're in a group, the time to kill will be much shorter, but that means you can kill many more enemies in the same time frame. If you have a particularly well-oiled group, you can slaughter entire spawn volumes with ease and run out of mobs. That can be a unique frustration in and of itself, let me tell you. In a group, however, you will share loot, and coin will be distributed amongst the group. Now, I bring up coins specifically for a good reason. The way it is distributed will seem weird at first, so let me explain. Let's say there are 5 people in a group. An enemy drops 9 copper coins. How do you divvy that up? Well, you can't do so exactly fairly. What the game will do is take 1 coin and give it to everyone. Then 4 people will get an extra coin, meaning one unlucky sap only gets 1 coin while the rest get 2. This seems to more or less round robin over time though, so try not to freak out too much when it happens. It gets really egregious when you start getting mobs that drop new denominations though, the first one being silver in your early to mid-teens. You'll see a mob drop 1 silver and 3 copper. Your share was 0 copper. This will be extremely frustrating. 1 silver is a significant amount of money at this stage of the game. It's super useful, and you're telling me I got nothing? I get it, but calm down though. We ran some experiments in public testing, and over the course of a 3-hour dungeon dive where this kind of thing happened frequently, we all came out with similar amounts of coin, albeit not exact. Of the 6 of us, one of us had 21 silver, the rest had between 16 and 18, so it will share the wealth. It's close to being even, but it's not an exact science, and the copper distribution isn't perfect either, so it really skews sometimes, like the example I just mentioned here. Either way, it'll feel really bad when you see it happen multiple times that you get 0 coins from corpses, but sometimes you'll get that 1 silver coin and it'll feel like Eltindra just smiled upon you. So just stay calm, it'll more or less balance out over time, I promise. Ultimately, when it comes to whether you want to group or solo, it comes down to what your goal is, what class you're playing, and the amount of time you can commit to in the current session. If you need money to buy new spells or some bags, go solo some humanoids or dragonkin. If you want to get a couple levels to hit that next spell level, hop in a group and grind for a couple of hours. Ultimately, the class you play will matter here. Some classes solo better than others, especially classes which can heal themselves. They have an inherent advantage over those who cannot. And that's because it's not all about how long it takes to kill something, but how much downtime there is between kills too. If you are a rogue, for example, you have no way to heal yourself. Sure, you can absolutely annihilate enemies, but every single time you take 20 damage, that's a whole minute you have to park your butt and not move to regenerate your health afterwards. That time will add up very fast. By the time you reach level 20 or so, it can take 30 or more minutes to regen your health naturally. Health that you can lose in just a few fights. Talk about a terrible amount of downtime. Yes, there are ways to help with this situation, particularly bandages, but those take multiple seconds to use and are limited in usefulness, and to be honest, very expensive early on, unless you have an elementalist summon them for you. That cloth could make you some bags, or a dress for you clothies out there. This won't matter as much for the first few levels, but by the time you hit level 10 or higher, and it starts taking 20 plus minutes to regen your missing 400 health, you will feel it, trust me. You might be wondering, what about mana then? Mana using classes get a skill called Meditate, which lets them regenerate their mana at much faster values, like 10 to 12 per tick instead of 2. Allegedly, at high levels, it's also extremely painful to regen mana though. This might be fixed in the future though, and since I've not experienced it myself, I can't really comment much more than that. Leveraging /OOC chat and the wiki. Finally, the last thing I want to talk about today is how to get help when you need it. And yes, you heard me correctly, I said when you need it, not if. Because ultimately, it is a matter of when, and not if, you're going to need assistance for something in Monsters and Memories. There are 4 main vehicles to get assistance in MNM. I'll briefly run through them. They are, number 1, /OOC chat, which allows you to get assistance from players in your local zone. Number 2, MNM Discord, get assistance from the community at large. Number 3, the wiki. Y'all should know what a wiki is. It's 2026 after all. And number 4, GM petitions. This should be reserved for technical issues like getting stuck. The first thing you should do if you have a question about something though is check the new player guide I mentioned in the previous video. That guide has a lot of information on it. If that doesn't help you, you can try asking in /OOC, that is out of character, chat. Particularly if you're in Night Harbor, where a significant portion of the server population will be at any given time. Asking how to find an NPC or area, buying things, although you can use /auction for that, hint hint. Looking for groups, searching for buffs like Sow, that's Speed of the Wild, the movement speed buff, the single most important buff in the game. Many of these issues can be solved in /OOC chat. If you have trouble getting answers to your questions in OOC chat, you can ask in the MNM Discord server in the appropriate channel. The community is very helpful and will often answer within a few minutes. This is personally my go-to method as I have the best experience on the Discord server. Your mileage may vary though. The wiki is full of useful information, but it also has a lot of out-of-date information. It is not a developer-made wiki like the Paradox wiki for Paradox games such as Stellaris. It is community-driven and thus will have errant information on it at times. It is, however, still a fantastic source of information. I look at the wiki like this. If I would use Wowhead for this type of question in WoW, I'll check on the MNM wiki for that info first before moving on to the other methods that I already mentioned, but that's my philosophy. And finally, GM petitions. Let's be nice to the GMs, not swamp them with petty questions and I can't find my corpse requests, please. But if you get stuck, or fall through the world, or suddenly find yourself missing gear out of nowhere despite not dying, yeah, ask the GMs. They don't bite, they're very helpful and passionate and want us players to enjoy our time in the game. So don't be afraid of them, just don't abuse it. And now for an honorable mention, I want to shout out the Fable Guild. This is the guild I am a part of as of this recording on Crevea, the public test server, as well as on the alpha server. The guild is immensely helpful with all sorts of things, as we have a large player base playing various different ways, such as crafters, poop stalkers, those are what they call tryhards, super casuals, altaholics, lore masters, we've got it all. While all kinds of guilds will be different, of course, I encourage you to join a guild and ask your guildies for help when appropriate. It's also a great way to socialize in such a social game. There you have it, my 5 most important tips for monsters and memories. As I said early in the video, there are many such videos that can be found on YouTube, so I encourage you to check those other tips and tricks videos out as well, as they also have some useful info in them. I hope that this helps you all to have a more enjoyable time in Aetheryl. If you learned something, let me know down in the comments below. And as always, to appease the algorithms, please like and follow on Rumble, like and subscribe on YouTube, and most importantly, have a great rest of your day. The next video will cover social etiquette in MNM, and is probably the single most important video in this entire series, so please make sure you watch that one. If you didn't play circa 2004 to 2005 vanilla WoW pre-server transfers, you must watch that video. It will make or break your experience in MNM. So, look forward to it.